Good afternoon, everyone. This is Michael Malley here with the Hurricane Outlook and discussion for June 19th, 2021, recorded around 2 p.m. Eastern Time. We have a lot to talk about, including the potential for Tropical Storm Claudette to bring impacts to coastal North Carolina and new systems developing potentially in the main development region over the next couple of weeks. Let's go ahead and jump straight into everything. Taking a wide look across the tropical Atlantic this afternoon, we notice here is finally named Tropical Storm Claudette. It got that designation very early this morning as the storm came ashore closer to New Orleans. And this will be making a sharp right-hand turn and move east-northeast over the next couple of days. And this will bring impacts to coastal Carolina over the next couple of days, including the potential for tropical storm conditions. We have a tropical storm watch for the Outer Banks, and we'll talk about that here in a moment. We also have a tropical storm in the eastern Pacific that made landfall, I believe, as a Category 1 hurricane, and this is now weakening as it moves into Mexico. And we also have additional disturbances lined up across the tropical Atlantic, none of which have been officially designated or even marked yet, but I believe that time will begin to change as we go through the next couple of days. Now, if we take a look here at Tropical Storm Claudette, again, sustained winds right now of 40 miles per hour, and this is expected to start weakening very shortly as it continues to move inland. Again, the tropical storm warning for Louisiana and Mississippi has been canceled. There is still a tropical storm warning for portions of Alabama and Florida, but this will now begin to move towards the east-northeast. And now there is a tropical storm watch in effect for parts of coastal Carolina. And what's going to be happening here, this is expected to remain a tropical cyclone through this entire duration and re-intensify while still over land partially to a tropical storm. Now, you might think that's impossible, but this is exactly what's going to be happening as we have upper level support that will be kind of taking over across the Midwest and across the Ohio River Valley. This will help to strengthen what will be then a tropical depression back into a storm and then continue moving off towards the north and east and away from land. So we can tell here on the visual satellite imagery that right now our system is still very disorganized, but it does have enough to retain classification as a tropical cyclone. We can see that we have, again, a rather diffuse center with most of the convection that is well off towards the east. We've had some very nasty, severe storms across portions of Florida, the Florida Panhandle, into parts of Alabama today. And unfortunately, we've had some very significant flooding in Louisiana and Mississippi as expected. And this will only continue to be aggregated, especially off towards the east here on the eastern side is going to be where the wettest and most severe storms will be through the next few days. Again, now we can tell that this is a closed low-level center of circulation. You can see that it's fairly vigorous at this time, and it does make sense that we have this circulation that is definitely closed off at this point, although it be very broad. Now, if we take a look here at the visible satellite on the more zoomed out look, we'll notice that, again, our upper level support is still way off in this region, but this will be digging across the Ohio River Valley over the next couple of days. And as this continues to make its way towards the east-northeast, eventually this upper level support will meet here with Claudette and help to strengthen it in this vicinity over the next couple of days. And we can see that, again, we have a lot of heavy weather that is still embedded well off towards the east. Again, off towards the east and north in this kind of comma head shape. And we have convection that is trailing still even in the Gulf of Mexico at this point. And this will be making its way, again, towards the north over the next couple of days. And as it does so, is going to bring some pretty flooding rainfall and the potential for severe storms across this area, especially across portions of Georgia, Florida, and the Carolinas could see some severe weather impacts from this. So this will certainly be a high impact event in terms of the potential for flooding rainfall and severe weather. The wind is not expected to be the biggest problem. Looking at the 850 millibar vorticity, this is the spin in the atmosphere about 5,000 feet off the ground. These reds and whites, that's the higher cyclonic spin at your 5,000 foot level. And we can tell that, again, this is a very broad system. It is very broad, loosely defined with a lot of vorticity that is still kind of stretched along this axis here. This is the old vorticity bit that was associated once with Invest 92L, which was now Claudette, but this was the old vorticity bit that broke away, and this is the new one that became Claudette. Now, this will continue to kind of retrograde back across into Mexico. This is not expected to develop whatsoever. Very hostile conditions down there at the moment. And this will be the main system that we're going to watch, and all this energy in the atmosphere is going to be moving off towards the north and east. And we can look at that here on the GFS forecast. We'll look here at the 850 vorticity. Again, this is valid for 2 p.m. today. What we'll notice is here's all this energy that is loosely defined across this area. Now you can kind of see that we still kind of have a very loosely defined axis that's in through here. And again, this is kind of that same area that's been very convectively active over the last couple of days. And this will begin to move off towards the east-northeast. Now, what we'll kind of notice is here on the GFS forecast, at least, this does end up kind of opening up into an open wave. Now, it is theoretically possible that that does happen, that you just kind of get a wave axis that kind of remains in here, and the GFS doesn't really do much else of it, especially then after about 60 hours, it finally starts to, as upper level support out here increases. But models like the Euro model, and we'll kind of look at here at the Euro maintains a cyclone in this area for the next 48 hours, and in fact then strongly intensifies it as it moves away from the coastline. So again, we could definitely see a tropical depression or storm in this vicinity over the next couple of days. And if we look here at the HWRF, this is the HWRF valid for 3Z Monday. So this is actually 11 o'clock Sunday evening. And what we'll notice is that by tomorrow, we have upper level support that is now in the Ohio River Valley. This is the upper level support across this area, and our system is going to be located somewhere in here at this time. This upper level support is going to create the potential for diffluence aloft, and will also increase the potential for that wind to be increasing, as mid-level support is the main driving focus here. Now, after this kind of scoots away, the HWRF actually kind of loses the vortex in this particular model, but this will be a strongly sheared environment with shear coming from another upper level anticyclone that is located well down to the screen here, but that is going to be pumping in a lot of shear. So not really expecting any significant intensification, and then this will eventually be post-tropical within the next 72 to 96 hours. Now, water temperatures off the Carolina coastline are certainly warm enough to support tropical cyclone genesis and formation. Again, we saw that with Bill only a few short days ago, or really a few short weeks ago now. Again, Bill was kind of located in this area through here and then moved off towards the north and east like that. And we'll be seeing something much of the same, where we get a storm to kind of come out here and then turn into the North Atlantic waters and subsequently weaken. Water temperatures are fairly sufficient, and upper ocean heat content is certainly there. And this would go to promote that we could indeed have a storm that retains itself in this environment. Although, again, right now, again, even based on this, again, the main impacts from this is going to be a heavy rainfall and the potential for flooding, regardless of whether this is indeed a tropical depression storm or neither at that time as it moves across this area. It really doesn't matter. Only for classification, the impacts will remain the same either way. Gusty winds, heavy rainfall, the potential for severe weather and tornadoes. That is certainly going to be something that is going to be there. And again, we'll just have to watch this very carefully, but this extends more of the impacts than just having a depression or storm. So again, don't focus on so much the wind. And we talk about this with, storms making landfall. Don't focus on the wind. Focus on the other impacts that will extend well away from this. Again, storm surge, that's a problem, that was kind of a problem, yesterday and the day prior. Now the main focus here is flooding, rainfall, the potential for severe storms, including damaging tornadoes. Very important to understand that those impacts are very real. They're going to be very prevalent across the area highlighted there and encircled. Within that area, you could definitely see some of those impacts. So again, it's important to remember that just because the wind threat may not be there, or it may not be a fully classified system, or whether it is or isn't, doesn't really matter. The impacts will remain the same. And I want to harp that very carefully, because again, it's something that can and has killed people in the past. We want to prevent future loss of life. So it's very important to understand that. Now, focusing out in time, this is the 12Z GFS, again, valid for 2 p.m. this afternoon. On a wider grand scheme of everything, we're going to have to start focusing on the main development region over the next couple of weeks here. we have a very favorable upper level pattern that is expected to be making its way around with convectively coupled Kelvin waves and the Indian Ocean and African standing wave, the ASW, that will likely take hold later into June and then continue for the next several months, really. And combined with the active convectively coupled Kelvin waves that will be passing through this region, we're going to have to watch, and this is illustrated on the 12Z GFS here. We'll kind of move this forward. We do have things to watch even still in the Eastern Pacific Basin after this tropical storm in the Eastern Pacific fades away. We could have another area develop closer to Central America and make its way towards the north and east. That's not out of the realm of possibility at the moment. In fact, the GFS does spin up a cyclone right after 5 days. By Friday of this upcoming week, we have another cyclone right near the coast there of Mexico. Now, the GFS also is trying to spin up another tropical cyclone in the eastern main development region here by Saturday. So this is only really a day later. We have a tropical cyclone here that is located in the Atlantic. Now, again, we saw this happen with 94L, and we saw that there was potential, and it ultimately faded because we had some very dry air in that environment. So taking a look at the environment, again, we see it's much of the same. The environment has a lot of dry air to the north, and we'll highlight this in red. A lot of dry air to the north and east of this, or to the north and west of the system. And right here, you've got this little pocket of favorability, and in fact, kind of taking a look at the vortex average sounding for that area. Again, we notice that shear is relatively light, but again, this capping inversion, or otherwise known as SIN, it's CIN is how it's spelled. Convective, it's basically convective inhibition. And we look at that for severe weather, but we can also look at that to determine that, okay, we kind of saw that last time with convection that just didn't really go over so well. It really dissipated with 94L, and this is much of the same here. Regardless, the GFS tries to spin up something, and then curiously, the GFS is trying to also spin up another system here in the Caribbean on Monday. So could we be dealing with something? Let's look at the European model because we don't want to get model bias. So looking at the European model on the 0Z, it did have a curious tropical wave here on Friday. It also has a tropical wave here and a new disturbance that could be forming in the Eastern Pacific. And if we kind of march that forward, this is what it looks like on Monday. We have a tropical system in the Eastern Pacific, nothing here in the Caribbean, and a tropical wave emerging near the Cabo Verde Islands and remnants of a strung out vorticity bit, associated with a old tropical wave that came through the Lesser Antilles. So the European model does see something similar minus the Caribbean system. Now the European ensembles, again, this is the Euro ensembles. Now the Euro, again, curiously, again, does have a stronger system that is out here and again maintains winds of 40 to 45 knots as it moves northward towards Atlantic Canada. Now here's this tropical wave that the Euro was kind of picking up on. Some of the members very weakly develop it, and we have a new tropical system that is likely to develop in the Eastern Pacific. This is only a couple of days past 5 days really. This is at day 5 right here. This is day 5, which is valid for Thursday, and we go to Friday and then Saturday. So this is by about a week from today. We could be dealing with, again, a storm here and another storm here in the Eastern Pacific and the Atlantic. And just for what it's worth, again, the Euro does kind of print out some of these here. Now, the GFS ensembles, we can take a look at that real quick. The GFS ensembles are, and we'll kind of look at that here. You'll notice how, again, we have this system developing here, and then here is what we'll be watching over the next couple of days. And the GFS doesn't really develop as much, but there is some members there, more so here with maybe more Caribbean activity. So we'll just have to kind of wait and see. Again, it is very early in the formative stages of everything, and we'll just have to kind of keep an eye on what might be happening down the road in this vicinity. Again, this does seem to support a more favorable pattern that is upcoming. If we look here at the GFS 200 millibar winds, again, we'll notice that There's not a lot of vertical wind shear. If we kind of look at that, we notice that, again, there is some wind shear that is lighter in this vicinity and stronger wind shear associated with a tropical upper tropospheric trough, a TUT, TUTT, that is digging in across this area, causing strong upper level winds to the north. But the main development region is a little bit lighter with shear, so it will be interesting to watch. All right. So that being said, I hope you all have a great rest of your afternoon and evening. Of course, I am Michael O'Malley. I'll talk to you guys again some more tomorrow.